What's happening? This is Yusuf. Um, and I just wanted to remark on a couple things. First thing being, I call a conversation where me and James at Pandora's Box were talking via Skype, and we were kind of laughing. I think I mentioned it because I said it's really strange that the more, because we're talking about different things, and I think this was before the art rant thing, but I don't know if we got into too much of Fomenko, but these people who say, well, Tacitus is a lie, and Pliny's, people who don't know how history works, how history's been developed, but they'll just automatically say, well, it's a forgery. Tacitus is a forgery, Pliny's a forgery. This, you say, well, why do you say that? And then they go, well, because the earliest copies that we have are from, they're not from the time of Tacitus or Pliny, which none of the copies of anything that we find are from the time of so-and-so. I mean, pretty much anything, any historical thing that you've ever read is either on the internet or in a book somewhere. And that book is not from the time of William Shakespeare or whatever. If you get a copy of Shakespeare's plays, that's not from the time of Shakespeare. That's from the time of whenever that book was printed. But it's kind of ridiculous because it's commenting and saying, this modern Christianity, as religion goes, people lose books. When we go back and we look at something like the Dead Sea Scrolls or the codices, the various codices of the Christian Church in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th century, you find much more. You find more books, and in those books you find, more, I was about to call them ayahs. You find more sentences and verses. It's certainly true about definitely about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, it wasn't a fact of people putting things in as it is them taking it out. All the stuff that was there is already there. But for like King, I believe the King's books, what are called 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Kings, or 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, or however you want to divide them up. There's more in there. I believe there was more in Isaiah, and they had the what are commonly called apocryphal writings, which are you could find in the Catholic and then the Orthodox and the stuff that the Orthodox have from various places. If you look at the codices, they'll have Shepherd of Hermes often in there. They'll have the Didache. They'll have Clement or Ignatius, like one of their letters in there. So it's kind of it actually is ridiculous when these people. Oh, well, that's we actually what we put forward, or what I don't want to say we because it's not the Eastern Orthodox definitely. But what the Protestants put forward as the Bible, I mean, this is the most cut down thing in the world. I mean, they take the Jamna conclusion as they even though the New Testament quotes from the Septuagint, the majority of the time they quote from the Septuagint, which is it's actually kind of funny. And then the Christians had always just used the Septuagint as their Old Testament. Until after the Protestant Reformation, when they said, oh no, that's no good, we've got to... And they keep Esther, though, which is very funny that they keep Esther. And I know when they divided up Esther's, you don't find Esther in the Apocrypha. You say, oh no, Esther's in the main books, but it doesn't mention the God of Israel. And it never uses... every canonical book will have the YHVH in there, or something like that. And Esther's doesn't mention that at all. And in the Dead Sea Scroll community, that's the one book they didn't find, and we've always known that it wasn't a canonical thing. They just put it in there for well, here's a story and it kind of connects 2 times together, so we're going to put it in there. It's like the filler period. So that's something I wanted to mention. It was kind of funny. I was just thinking about that. The second thing is that I truly mean it when I say the evangelicals should either become Orthodox or go to Satanism. It would be a lot less trouble for me. Actually, either of those, being Orthodox or going to Satanism, is a lot closer to being Orthodox. I see Satanism as much closer to Orthodoxy than evangelical Christianity. Because they'll say, no, there's carnal people and there's spiritual people. Yeah. So it's, you go off and you do that or this or that, and it comes down to, again, I made a video about this, but it's on this channel. Why don't I sin? And maybe I should remake the video, but in short, I don't, the main reason for me not to sin, because I don't have an investment in afterlife. I know that everybody wrestles with things, or just kind of some things about faith or whatever, or dogmas, or you kind of say, you know what, yeah, but I'm not, for me, I'm not, that's not my goal, I'm not quite there yet, and you just take it as, okay, this is what I believe, because this is what we believe, kind of thing. The afterlife is something like that. Does not come into my mind. I don't care. It's not the goal. There's no goal or objective of that, of an afterlife. I really could care less personally. I'd like everybody else to go there, but if it's real or not real, it's not important. And I would also have my afterlife if I had. By the way I affect people, by the way I talk to people, when people remember me, any effect that I've ever had on society or people around me is my afterlife. Also, any DNA that might be passed on from me if I have kids, or even nieces and nephews that I have. When I talk to them, I mean, they share familiar genes. When I say familiar, family genes. And they're influenced by me, because you're influenced by everything around you. So there's a sufficient afterlife for me, but I'm not banking on that. I don't really. It's, my thing is to leave the world in a better condition than when I found it. Usually try to. I don't sin because it goes against my identity. It's very funny. People say, well, like these evangelicals that really think they're getting into heaven, and you see them fornicating, getting drunk, which are like the two things that are always mentioned, where it'll say they will never enter the kingdom of heaven. But I think Paul lists these people will never enter, because it just shows you that's what you do. And I'm not saying people can't struggle with that and go to God, but people who have no struggle against it, who don't care, who say, oh, well, God forgives, God forgives, God forgives, God forgives, God forgives. At a certain point, it doesn't have to do with forgiveness. It has to do with what the life you choose is. You can say, well, I believe in Christ, and then choose to make as much money as you can, live in a life of luxury, which we're told you do that. You basically live in a life of luxury. You don't suffer for God. Nope, you're not going there. So I think it's kind of funny that somebody who doesn't care, doesn't necessarily want an afterlife like me, says, I have the kingdom of God right now in the church. It doesn't have to do with material gain at all. Actually, it's quite the contrary. And I don't go out and do these certain activities because that's not how Christians live. That's not what we are to do. And that's who I am. That's who I am naturally. I naturally want to do that. Which wasn't always the way I wanted. The way I want to do it. It's not. There's no real struggling or fighting for me. If there's any struggling and fighting, it's all these things that I had believed originally, and then they got changed when I started to go into Protestantism and all that stuff. And now I'm trying to come back to it, of my original self, how I acted, when I was younger. Try to kick out all the Augustinian junk. Which I just find that when I say I find it funny, it's actually very heartbreaking and saddening that you see these this wealth and health prosperity gospel. You'll see evangelicals who say, well, I'm saved by faith. And they use it like the ranters used it. They're libertines in their life. That's what they are. I'm not talking about libertarians, but they're not even Epicureans. They're just, let's drink and have sex, and as long as we're not murdering people, then we're going to go to heaven. And they look down on those people who don't have Christ in their heart. Very funny things. I don't understand it. It's very odd, the evangelicals. They have kids. It's one thing I really haven't gotten any I don't know. I kind of want to put that. I want to actually walk into an evangelical church and be like, "Why are you doing?" I actually want to do that and be like, where there's like 15 people there, and be like, "Why are you doing this?" To get a real answer instead of talking to like a pastor behind closed doors. Be like, "No, stop this. You have kids dancing up there, doing like dances and hand motions for God, and they'll have like their face painted a certain way, and they'll all be like in like a dance. They'll have like a dance troupe almost, and there'll be people singing and people swaying like this, and a rock band, like a crappy. I mean, the devil has the best music. So why are you trying to make it wuss rock and then put it in church? You know, it's like emo music in church. Oh Lord, I mean, I think they're the ones that invented the emo crap. I'm a sad Christian. That's just not understood. And I have my ripped whatever jeans and all this kind of garbage, and it makes no sense to me whatsoever. Because you're like, okay, now you're acting like the world. What do you know? And they're like, oh, I got my girlfriend and this and that. And it's like, okay, that's cool. You're sleeping with that person? Well, she's my girlfriend. So it's a yes. So obedience is just you having faith, and that, which I look at faith and I see that as loyalty. I don't see that as me trying to get like some emotional high off of believing something that my brain can't comprehend. I find that as ridiculous. I don't understand the I'm a Christian and this and that. And I see faith as loyalty, as being loyal, faithfulness, kind of. These are just some things that I just find odd and strange. And the fundamentalist atheist, yeah, they really are. They're fundamentalist Christians who are still fundamentalist Christians, but they're atheists now, so they have to go everybody and tell them. And just like the fundamentalist Christians have to try to mess with everybody else's lives and think it's their business to needle people and poke people and try to pull them over to Jesus' side. It's the atheists that have done the same thing. And I think the fundamentalist atheists are majority fundamentalist Christians that have come to atheism, but I think there are people who wind up acting like that who were never fundamentalist Christians, but it's kind of weird. There is this fundamentalist atheist, and I said, well, what should some description be, just so there's a common term, and I think that's a good one. And I've had to react against these people, be like, you're exactly like them. They can't go into a rational dialogue. They can't. I mean, I should go over another video too. Peace to you. May God save Serbia. Please pray for that poor soldier's family and him, the man who killed 16 people in Afghanistan, the innocent man that killed 16 people in Afghanistan. He killed them, but he's innocent in my view. It was the army. They're responsible. They're using him as a scapegoat. This man should get the help he needs because he did have traumatic brain injury and he had PTSD. And it's sad. This man should not be punished. He needs healing. You're going to put him in prison because of what the U.S. has. I can't even talk about it. It'll piss me off. Peace to you. May God save Serbia. But we should get angry sometimes. Get angry and do not sin. Sin would be keeping silent, committing sin by silent consent. So this is horrible what they're doing to this man. May God save Serbia. Thing, but I don't know if we got into too much of Fomenko, but these people who say, well, Tacitus is a lie, and Pliny's, people who don't know how history works, how history has been developed, but they'll just automatically say, well, it's a forgery. Tacitus is a forgery, Pliny's a forgery. This, you say, well, why do you say that? And then they go, well, because the earliest copies that we have are from, they're not from the time of Tacitus or Pliny, which none of the copies of anything that we find are from the time of so-and-so. I mean, pretty much anything, any historical thing that you've ever read is either on the internet or in a book somewhere. And that book is not from the time of William Shakespeare or whatever. If you get a copy of Shakespeare's plays, that's not from the time of Shakespeare. That's from the time of whenever that book was printed. But it's kind of ridiculous because it's commenting and saying, this modern Christianity, as religion goes, people lose books. It's certainly true about definitely about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, it wasn't a fact of people putting things in as it is them taking it out. All the stuff that was there is already there. But for like King, I believe the King's books, what are called 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th Kings, or 1st, 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, or however you want to divide them up. There's more in there. I believe there was more in Isaiah, and they had the books. When we go back and we look at something like the Dead Sea Scrolls or the codices, the various codices of the Christian Church in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th century, you find much more. You find more books, and in those books you find, more, I was about to call them ayahs. You find more sentences and verses. What's happening? This is Yusuf. And I just wanted to remark on a couple things. First thing being, I call a conversation where me and James at Pandora's Box were talking via Skype, and we were kind of laughing. I mentioned it because I said it's really strange that the more, because we're talking about different things, and I think this was before the art